Hello, Unbreakable Mompreneurs. I have Lezly Kaye in the house. And my name is Sharice Walker. I'm your host, and I'm excited because Lezly she's tasted everything and she's lost it all. And so we're just going to kind of talk about that. So Lezly, why don't you introduce yourself?
Hi, thank you for having me. Oh, yeah, I'm Lezly Kaye. I am a business and relationship coach. I sit in the intersection of strategy and healing. And yeah, really, I've had quite the life, quite the experience where I built a 60 million empire and then a 20 million business and sort of got to this pinnacle of success where I had everything that everyone told me I should have, the $1 million salary, the 5 houses, the Range Rover, the designer, everything, the husband that loved me more than he loved himself. And yeah, I found out that at my core, I was deeply unhappy. There was so much sadness and pain. And a lot of my success was built on the back of actually avoiding myself and not wanting to face the parts of me that I deemed ugly or unlovable or the pain of my childhood, really. And I sort of got to this pinnacle and had this realization and a spiritual awakening, if you like, and really started to question who I was and what I actually wanted in life. And from that place, I started to dismantle everything and have spent the last 4 years both healing, learning, and rebuilding.
And isn't it crazy? Because I didn't lose it all. I've never had all of that. But I've been very, very blessed my whole life. And I've had C-suite type jobs where I was able to manage really big colleges and a lot of students and different things. And I remember one day I walked in and my boss just said, "Hey," I mean, I had got the school accredited. And then he's like, "Hey, we no longer need you." What?
Mm.
And I was going through divorce at the time that I never thought I'd be going through. I had 4 little kids, and it turned out to be this huge blessing that I didn't realize. But as I was dating guys, there was one guy in particular, he wanted me to marry him. No matter how much I tried, I was not interested in him. I couldn't. I just couldn't do it. And I thought my life would totally be set if I married him. My kids would be taken care of. But then I started thinking, money is not everything. And he told me, "Well, Sharice, it's not me, then you should date a lawyer or a doctor. You know, you deserve that." And I just thought, really? Like a lawyer or doctor is going to just make my life happy? There's more
Mm.
because I was dating a guy that, I mean, he's from this podunk town. I actually married him. And, very, very simple guy. And I mean, we've been blessed, but tell me for you, how did you go from having everything in the life to realizing, you know what, it's just not, it's not happiness to me.
Where to start? I want to say no matter how much money I made or how much success I found, there was this like feeling inside of me of just feeling so empty, of feeling so like incomplete in some way. And I realized that I was constantly chasing more and more and more outside of myself that I just got sick of chasing outside of myself, basically. I got sick of really giving parts of myself away.
Mhm.
And it wasn't until I started to ask myself, who am I and what do I truly want, that I started to realize that I'd been living my whole life
Right.
for everyone else's expectations, like marry the lawyer or marry a good man or just get good grades or just get a good job or just do this or just do that. And at no point had I actually stopped and asked myself, who am I? Who do
Right.
I want to be? And what life do I want to live? And there's so much power in actually going, well, if I just stopped listening to everyone else and actually found out who I am truly at my core and then started to live from that truth and that place, then you kind of liberate yourself from what everyone else says or wants for you or projects onto you. When it comes to relationships, it's less about the person and what they have or what they can offer, and more about their capacity to love, as far as I'm concerned. Like, do they have capacity to have difficult conversations? Do the values align? Do you want the same things from life? The biggest thing when I left my ex-husband was like, we never actually had similar values. We didn't even have that conversation. We got together in our early 20s and yeah, like I didn't know who I was. He didn't know who he was. We didn't know what our values were. And we'd never actually had conversations about what the future would look like or what our aspirations were or what our desires were. And we never also gave space for the evolution of each other. Like as humans, we're a lot of us constantly evolve, or there's a desire to constantly evolve, especially in the lens in which I view the world. And having someone that didn't want to was never going to like make me feel whole or complete or met in that relationship.
Mhm.
So yeah, a lot of self-responsibility and self-inquiry, a lot of actually asking myself or giving myself permission to find my truth and to not worry about what anyone else thought about that truth.
And that is the whole purpose of this podcast, is because I want women to realize, live your life for yourself. And I don't mean that in a selfish way. If you have children, or if you, yes, you need to take them into consideration. If you have a spouse, you need to take them into consideration. But my ex-husband, you're absolutely right. I was married at 19 and he was 22, and we had the same values. But then he started to go this way. And I mean, he needs to embrace that. And I mean, where I am, where he is, we're 180. And he was over the other night picking up my son, and we wouldn't even date each other. We probably wouldn't even really talk to each other now because we're so different. And good or bad, right or wrong, that's for each person to decide. But it's very interesting. And I think that for the longest time, I lived my life for other people as well. And so when you're making all this money, because a lot of people, a lot of listeners probably can't even fathom $60 million, $20 million. When you're making that money, do you feel freedom? Do you feel captive? Do you feel happy? Do you feel stressed? What was your life?
I want to say I was addicted to the chaos and addicted to the stress, so it didn't register as stress.
Mm-hmm.
I also want to invite people into the realization that big wealth is available to everyone, actually. We
Mm-hmm.
just have to remove the limitations and our perceptions of what yeah, of like what's available to us.
Mm-hmm.
The biggest thing that's gifted me, especially like moving into coaching, you know, most coaches don't make multiple six figures in their first year. But when I moved into coaching, because I had this awareness of how much abundance is available, I wasn't in a lack mentality. The transition for me was really easy.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, I want to say the mentality is overwhelmed and always borderline burnt out, but not actually aware of it. I can witness it now because I know the signs. I know I'm in relationship with myself. I know my body. I know when I push too hard. Back then, there wasn't an awareness. I would work, I guess, for like sprints. So I would sort of work for 3 or 6 months at a time and not take a holiday. And then my holidays were actually almost just collapsing and sleeping and resting. I didn't go explore the world or enjoy my time. I just like replenished all the depletion that I'd pushed myself into. I was also deeply unhealthy. Like I was 40 kilos heavier. I was 110 kilos. Sorry for all you Americans, I only know kilos, but um,
I'm like,
uh,
what's the math on that? No, I'm
yeah, yeah,
kidding.
yeah. What's the conversion? Um,
It's 2.2 pounds, I know.
yeah, yeah. So if it's double, so it's like 80, almost 90 pounds heavier than I am. Um, and a lot of that was hormone imbalance. A lot of that was stress. A lot of that was cortisol. I also ate to suppress my emotions because I didn't have time to feel my emotions. There's this, you know, like I've got to be strong and I've got to keep it all together and I've got a son and a husband and a business. And if I don't keep it all together, if I don't control and if I'm not like showing this strong
Right.
exterior,
Mm-hmm.
then I don't know, something's wrong, basically. Yeah, so it showed up in a lot of ways around, yeah, burnout and overwhelm. I guess I was happy in moments, but the biggest indication or decision for me to start to do some of the work or the healing work was I didn't ever really feel emotion, as in I didn't ever really get angry. I mean, I'd get frustrated, but I never like cried often or for long. But it also meant I couldn't hold my happiness for long. And one of the things I got really curious about was why I couldn't ever be in like extended states of happiness or joy or bliss. And it was because I wasn't, and what I know now is because like pleasure and pain are actually the same,
Mm-hmm.
the opposite sides of the same coin. If
Right.
we don't allow ourselves to feel our pain, we actually somatically in our nervous system don't have capacity to feel our pleasure or our joy or our happiness.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, there was this I want to say like existence in the surface, where I wouldn't allow myself to drop into any depth of emotion or depth of reflection on, like the trauma from my childhood or the unhappiness or disconnection that I felt in my relationship. There definitely was a level of existing in the surface, so I didn't have to look any deeper. And I presented as being happy. I say I had like the
Right.
Instagram perfect life.
Hmm.
I
Yep.
had I had designer everything and five-star holidays and private jets to lunch and private chefs and um, I would be happy in moments and I would capture those moments. And it's not that I ever felt depressed. And this is where I think people don't understand the state that they're in because they're like, well, I'm not depressed, so I'm fine. But you're also not really anything. It was kind of like a numb existence. There wasn't depression, but there also wasn't like happiness and joy. And I think we so often forget that our natural state is actually joy and bliss and pleasure. And it's our capacity to experience the pain and the grief and the anger that allows us to access those heightened states of emotions.
Interesting. And so I wrote this book, it's Flipping the Iceberg, it's right there. That it talks about that because I didn't realize until I was out of my first marriage and actually I was having a conversation with my daughter that we all have these traumas in our life and they're like icebergs, right? So if we're not aware of these traumas, then how can we heal ourselves? And I was talking with well, I won't give it away, but a family member of mine, and we were driving, and I said, "So, how's your mom?" And she goes, "Well, she has this fantastic ability to um, stay busy so she doesn't have to think about things." And I was like, oh my gosh, I'm like driving, she's in the passenger seat, and I'm just withering away because it never hit me. I mean, she's not talking about me, but it was as if she was talking to me because. At the beginning of the year, I wrote down, I'm going to do this, 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 this. And all these people are like, oh my gosh, Sharice, how are you doing it all? And what can you do? And here I am trying to accomplish it all. And I'm like, why am I doing all this? What is the end goal? What am I trying to prove? And to who am I trying to prove it to? And so somebody said, I was at the movies with my kids yesterday and they sent me a text, hey, can you talk? And I said, okay, yeah, sure. So I stepped out. It's a cartoon, it's fine. And they're like, well, Sharice, we're a little concerned because like they're going to partner with me. And they said, we're a little concerned because you spread yourself too thin. And I thought, okay, that's not the message I'm trying to portray to anybody. So if that's the message, no wonder I'm having some difficulty in some areas of my life because people are probably thinking, oh, you're too busy, so I don't want to bother you. And that's the exact opposite message I'm trying to portray. And
Mm.
so it's very interesting when you look at people and you're thinking, or what you're trying to portray, it could be backfiring on you.
I want to say that we actually communicate through our subconscious, and
Right.
it's less about what we say and more about the energy behind it.
Yeah.
And we get really good, especially as high achieving women, to hide from ourselves in plain sight.
Yeah.
And this is the busyness and the also the savior complex that we can take on.
Right.
It's like, I'm the only one that can fix this. I'm the only one that can do this. Let me control everything. Let me take responsibility for everything. There's often two things that play out here. It's a need to control in order to feel safe based on something that happened in childhood, or a self-worth that's playing out that we attach worth to delivering something, being someone's hero.
Mhm.
And so we have to like be the hero in someone's story, whether it's an employee and we're the only one that can deliver a result, or whether it's a relationship where someone is always has drama and we're the ones to swoop in and save them from that drama.
Mhm.
We're actually constructing that reality based on our needs. And often we think it's all them or it's all the organization or it's all the person. But truthfully, our reality is a construct of our internal systems and the experiences and relationships and yeah, like things that come into our life are a direct representation of the reality that we're trying to repeat, basically. So based on like what happened to us in our formative years, zero to seven, whether it's an absent father, an absent mother, whether it's abuse, it's all related to who we decided we were back then and continuing to perpetuate that story and that cycle throughout our lives.
It's true. And it's, I write it in my book. There's this lady I listen to. I'm totally drawing a blank. I always draw blanks. But she talks about finding the joy in life and that we all live by three fears. You know, is it I'm good enough? I'm not good enough. You know, I'm going to fail. I mean, there's specific things, but she kind of talks about like when we're born, we're all perfect. And like you said, there's this code about 7 years old that it's all of a sudden you start getting, what's the word? When you kill a computer, a virus, right? So the virus starts to get into our brain and it starts to program and it's like abort, abort, get out. But exactly what you said. And so if we can identify that and overcome it, now we can start making healthy decisions. And like for me, one of my biggest passions is making a healthy decision with a partner and a spouse. Because oh, having been through divorce like you're just like, whoa, how did I get there? What was I thinking? You know?
I sit in the veins of business and relationship.
Mm-hmm.
And what I can share with divorce is I was asking my ex-husband to meet me somewhere that I wasn't willing to meet myself. I was asking him to meet me in my emotion, but I wasn't willing to meet myself in my emotion.
Wow.
I was asking him to bring more intimacy, and not even in a sexual sense, just in like intimacy and connection into our relationship when I didn't have intimacy with myself. I didn't have connection with myself. I didn't know who I was at my core. And so oftentimes there can be this, I want to say, projection or desire for our men to save us or for them to step up and invest in the relationship or for them to do the work and meet us in doing it.
Mm-hmm.
But generally, we're not meeting ourselves there. And also, women are the leaders of love. So it is our responsibility to go first in love, which is in relationship. And also, we set the tone of the relationship. Like I'm quite a devotional woman. Like I would say, I would almost borderline say like I'm devotional in the sense of submissive to a man, not in a sexual sense, I want a man to lead. I'm very traditional. That's what I'm looking for. I'm very traditional in the sense of I don't want to lead. I want a man to provide and protect and to lead the family unit. When we get caught up in that desire to have our man take the lead, especially if we've come from a world which is true, which is what was true for me, where I was very controlling and I didn't know how to let go, and was like, well, now it's your responsibility to do the work to save this relationship. As women, if we lead from a place of self-love and self-acceptance, if we devote to ourselves, if we devote to our own relationship, if we devote to our own practices, we set the tone for men to meet us there. And so my biggest conversation from my experience is I don't think I would have left my husband having known what I know now, because I understand the level of or the lack of awareness I had around my responsibility to go first in relationship, to show him the way how to love me best, because I didn't even know how to love myself best. And that's a key component in some of these fractions that I see in women that I coach is it's my husband's fault. I want to blame him if he just did better, if he just did the work. And there is not enough self-responsibility to actually understand our own pleasure, understand the way we want to be loved, understand the way we want to be treated, and then inspire our men from that place rather than expect them to meet us somewhere we don't even know what the destination is.
That is powerful. And although I wish I could say that about my husband, I can't, or my ex-husband, because it was, oh, that was a tough one, but I wanted that, and I think for a while I could have easily blamed him for a lot, but it wasn't, like I said, until I started writing the book going, I need to take some responsibility in this relationship and what happened. And you're right. I was the breadwinner. I was the controller. So I came home and he acted like this child. And so I treated him probably not as my partner, but he never wanted to step up to that role. Or maybe he did, but he didn't have the confidence. Actually, I think it was more the latter. And so I think that there's so many things that it's easy as the woman because to not take responsibility, I think. And I love that you are blunt and you bring that out in people, because a lot of times they come to someone wanting them to validate their feelings. And it's not effective if I mean, I can think of something when you talked about you project what you want on people. And so, like, I have this daughter that I love. Why do you keep getting yourself in these situations? It's like this hamster wheel. And I don't see projections. It's like, why do you keep putting yourself around these types of people? Like, let's go to people that bring you up, not that bring you down. And so it's like, okay, you got to do some work on yourself first. And so she is. But that's the part that it's easy to watch from the outside, but once you're in that, it's tough.
Truly, truly. And I look back at the lens of my previous life and my previous relationship with the awareness that I have now. It was really hard for me to see that when I was in it, which is
Right.
why I value coaches and
Mhm.
audiobooks and mentors so much, because we actually don't have capacity to see ourselves.
Yeah.
We rely on relationships, whether it's friends or coaches or mentors, even our relationship with our business, to reflect back to us the parts of ourselves that we cannot see.
Right.
Our ego, our prefrontal cortex, actually masks the truth of who we are
Mhm.
because it's constantly delivering us a narrative of who we think we are.
Yeah.
And it's not until we're in relationship, and this is why relationships can be really telling, that someone sort of holds the mirror up and goes, actually, you might think you're saying this, but this is how I'm receiving it.
That's
And,
so.
and yeah, it's very revealing if you allow yourself to actually be witnessed.
Mhm.
It's why coaching and mentoring is so powerful, because we then have the capacity to see the truth of how we show up in the world. And I want to say what wounds and pain we're perpetuating into our relationships.
Yeah. Yep. And that's why I wrote the book, because of that. And it's just, I mean, once you finally like get healthy with yourself, now let's talk about the relationship, because you said you and your husband never had those conversations before you got married. And I mean, I grew up in the Cinderella. It's called The Slipper and the Rose, but it was a Cinderella. They live happily ever after. They fall in love. And so when my ex and I were driving across country to come back to school and we're fighting every day, I'm like, oh, this is a great marriage, you know? And it was stupid stuff we were fighting about, so it wasn't a big deal. But I had this ideal that you're just not supposed to fight, and if you do, you have issues. And so, um, it's it's got to be uncovering who your person is and who yourself is. That's your iceberg and flipping it.
And also, we actually just regurgitate the relationships we had with our caregivers. Often in dynamics with men and women, we're actually testing our men subconsciously to see how powerful they are and to see if we can be safe with them.
Yeah.
So there's, 3 months of honeymoon period, and then normally a power struggle happens in relating where we start to test our men to see if basically they're going to put up with our bullshit. And if they put up with it, we start controlling and they've lost our respect.
Yeah.
What we're actually asking them to do is to stand firm in their truth and stand firm in their boundaries and guide us into the relationship together. We've just lost the art of relating. We've lost the art of actually allowing conflict to bring us together. We think conflict is going to rip us apart. It's actually a healthy way. If you communicate in a healthy way, like anger at someone's never okay. Violence is never okay. Like verbal abuse is never okay. So there's a level of self-responsibility to learn how to regulate your emotions and express your emotions in a clean, healthy way. That's very advanced stuff, but
I was gonna say.
essentially, yeah, essentially in every
Oh,
relationship, though, there's a testing.
mhm.
The women test their men, and it's so subconscious. It's not like narcissistic or manipulative. It is our natural nature, because there's a little girl inside of us that wants to know that this man is going to protect us, like we wanted our dad to protect us. Healthily, if we're in this healthily, we're not trying to replace our dad,
Mhm.
but there is a level of handing over the responsibility of our hearts and our providership and our protection to a man that is going to then play the role of provide, protect in our life from a healthy place. It's a co-creation of what we want the structure of the relationship to look like. But often if we don't give space for our men to lead, they will default to us mothering them, because they're also then trying to recreate their imprint of their relationship with their mum.
Yeah.
And so if we're not consciously aware of these dynamics, we continue to perpetuate the cycle of wanting daddy's approval as a woman and wanting mum's love as a man. And it plays out in so many relationships.
And I think if you were to take it one step further, that's why when the mother-in-law gets involved and she starts to become very domineering and the husband cannot stand up to her, then that's where you, as speaking from personal experience, but you as the wife, is like, no, you need to stand up for me, you need to protect me. And yet now he's forced to like choose between them, and according to the Bible it should be the wife, but he's not willing to, and so that's a whole nother dynamic that comes into it. And so I could have a long conversation with you because I 100% agree with you
And
about
this is
everything.
not where I thought this was going to go, but I just want to say with
No.
that, men should have healthy boundaries with their mums.
Mhm.
And if they don't, that's a conversation, like that's an awareness that you can have going into a relationship, like to understand the family dynamic, to
Yeah.
understand what attachment that they currently have, what attachment styles they might have,
Right.
um, and kind of the type of man that you're getting in relationship with.
Mhm.
Because men should be wife first, mother second. And
And
if there's struggle, it's often because they've got an unhealthy attachment to their mother.
yeah, or the mom can't let go because it's an unhealthy attachment to the child. But I think it goes both ways, because I know a lot of guys where the wife, I mean, she will do everything with her family and her siblings, and yet he's like, if they go on any vacation, the whole family goes. And so he's like, can I ever have just my wife? And it's not possible. And so that's the part that it's interesting, that in a marriage, it has to be the two of them. And if not, it's like a whole bunch of luggage that you're, I always liken it to a marathon, that you're just continuing to run with this ball and chain. It's going to be a tough, tough marathon to get to the finish line if you can't let that go.
It
So,
is also avoidance.
yeah,
Like if in that dynamic, I would be asking her if she was truly happy. Because to me,
yeah,
that feels like I don't actually enjoy spending time with my husband. I'm avoiding some deeper
yeah,
conversations
mhm,
that need to happen.
yeah,
So rather than spend alone time, I'm going to fill the space with other people and other things
that's a good point.
to avoid the depth of conversation that we likely need to have.
Mhm.
People are so afraid of depth because they're so afraid of being left and not loved and judged, or being, for me, my ex-husband is like one of the most beautiful men on the like that I've met. He's a beautiful human. He's just not my human. And so for a very long time, it was really hard for me to leave that relationship because everyone else was like, "Are you insane? He's such a good man." Just because he's a good man doesn't mean that he's my man. Just because he's a good man doesn't mean that I'm happy and fulfilled.
Mhm.
And it's this, this self-responsibility to go like, who am I and what do I want? And where am I living my life for everyone else? Because
Mhm.
I lost all of my friends and family back then. Everyone took his side because they thought that I had lost my mind. Because why would I leave such a good man? No one actually cared about my happiness or fulfillment. And so I understand the nuances in this, like almost like it feels easier to stay in an unfulfilling relationship, the same as it feels easier to stay in an unfulfilling job or an unfulfilling business, as it does to actually choose yourself because you've spent a lifetime of not choosing yourself.
Well, and you become numb to life and reality, and you just apathetic is the word I like to use, because it's like, I don't care. And when you get to that, I don't care, that's a huge warning sign and red flag that they're danger, danger, danger. Like you're going off a cliff and you need to stop and like figure this out.
Really.
So getting to that, which some of the stuff is controversial, some listeners might be like yelling at it, but I love that you actually are real, because in a time where it's all about femininity, where women rule, and like you go to a blockbuster, who are the main characters? The women are the superheroes, and these men are little pathetic, help me type. And it's like, wow. And my husband, he has a hard time going to movies anymore because of that. I'm like, chill out, dude. But it really is true, right? And so there's tons of controversy around this. So if discussing like love and
Mhm.
money and self-worth as a controversial topics, how have you changed from before to now
Mm.
to like inspire your clients and your peers?
Mm. I hated men.
Oh, did you?
Um, I hated men, even
Oh,
though I had a beautiful husband, and I wasn't consciously aware of it.
wow.
Um, I have a lot of abuse in my childhood, and
Mm.
men were the perpetrators.
Mhm.
So what was ingrained in me was that I can't trust men.
Yeah.
Even in the relationship with my ex-husband, he and I want to be kind as much as I can, but
I think you've been
I
very, just so you know.
yeah, but I could control him so that was safe for me. Like I wouldn't allow a man to lead me. I wouldn't allow him. So I emasculated my ex-husband for 10 years and then woke up one day and expected him to lead me, but I programmed him for 10 years to not be a man because men were unsafe.
Oh, yeah.
So I brought, into my reality, I would always have this experience of men of like screwing me over in some way or backstabbing me in some way or hurting me in some way. And when you play in the realms of big business, I had like my first $60 million business, I had a man that I was in partnership with that never actually lodged the shareholders agreement. So I built him basically a $60 million business. And then I woke up one day and not, it didn't happen like that, but it was almost like I woke up one day and realized I wasn't a part owner and he was never going to honor the agreement that he made with me. So in my subconscious, I was perpetuating this belief that men were always going to either leave me or screw me over in some way. Where I really started to pay attention was the second business I built, which I built on my own. I actually brought in a business partner halfway through to bring in more funding so we could continue to grow. This man promised me all this funding, promised me all of this support, and never delivered, and then stole my business out from underneath me. So I thought that I was in control because it was my business, it was my contracts, it was me that was doing everything. But I still perpetuated the same experience in a different way because my experience was men were going to betray me. Because of this, I also had a lot of internalized patriarchy, which also meant that I didn't have any female friends and that I didn't give opportunities to women either, because not only did I subconsciously hate men, but I also sought their approval and validation. So I
Laughing
wouldn't,
because I totally feel you're like, I'm there. Keep going. I'm not
yeah,
laughing at you.
no, I get
I
it.
understand. I understand.
Um, So then I would perpetuate this patriarchy and I would never give women opportunities because there was a subconscious part of me that thought if I give another woman an opportunity, the men that think I'm special because I can make all this money and I can deliver on all of these promises might not love me as much or value me as much if another woman shows that she has value as well.
Mhm. Yep.
So I was the woman that was like, I don't need a man. I can make all of my own money, so I don't need you to make money for me. I wasn't having sex with my ex-husband anyway, so it wasn't like he was delivering me pleasure. So like what use was he? Like truthfully, that's what I thought. Like by the end of it, I was like, well, we're not even having sex, so what's the point here? If you're not bringing me money and you're not bringing me pleasure, what is the point? But I was perpetuating this like actual hate of the masculine, dressed up as, well, of course I don't hate men. Like, why would I? Like, I have a husband. But it was so internalized and so covert that as I started to unwind it and come into like, I want to say like, and I play in the world of polarity and masculine, feminine, and I've spent 4 years studying this. It's like, I didn't realize how disconnected from my desires I were because I don't, well, I need a man because I need his providership, his protection, his love, but I get to choose the man that gets to receive the gift of the woman that I am. And that's the difference. Is I need a man, but I can be selective in the man that I give that gift to.
Mhm.
And we need each other.
Mhm.
Like men need our nurture, our love, our receptivity. They need to feel like the heroes in our story. And women need their men to provide and protect and to make them feel safe. And I don't subscribe to anything outside of that because I've lived on both sides of the fence. I still have a multi six-figure, pushing seven-figure business, but I have so much surrender and so much receptivity to the masculine. And I'm single, but like the way this shows up is like random. It's just like I'll be traveling and a man will just ask to carry my bags for me. I will be, I don't know, like if I'm traveling solo with my son, for example, like men will literally ask to take my bag so I can carry my son onto the plane. I landed from LA the other day and the flight was full and my bags were all the way down the back of the plane.
Mhm.
And men literally, I didn't ask this of anyone. Men down the back end of the plane saw that I was looking for my bags and passed my bags forward to the front so I could leave the plane on time. there's I want to say a right relationship that we can have with ourselves that allows us to be in right relationship with the opposite sex.
Mm.
And it's not to say that men are less than if they're not in this posture, or women are less than they're not in this posture. And my truth might not be someone else's truth, but I see a lot of distortion. I want to say a lot of programming in the way feminism is pushed onto people, the way these movies portray the woman as the hero, because women disconnected from their true essence burn out, need to go on medication, need psychological help, are overweight, so then they go into the health system or they have health issues. I don't often subscribe to conspiracy theories, and some people are like, this is a conspiracy. If you look at the statistics of overweight, unhappy, stressed out women and men, and you look at the correlation between that woman actually being feminine versus being in masculine overdrive, or it's not anyone's fault. There's no shame or shade, or like, we live in a world that wants us to be overstimulated. We live in a world that rewards productivity. When we start to come back into our feminine power, because it is powerful to be in this posturing, we start to realize that it is powerful to be a woman, and it is powerful to be provided for by a man in our power. Now, that might look like, I don't ever want to work and I want my man to be the breadwinner and I want to just bake and have babies and stay at home. If that's your truth, like, more for you.
Mm-hmm.
My truth is that there's space for both of us to be in our power and both of us to be in our purpose. And if we can learn to inspire our partners to show up more fully in their expression of the type of masculine man they want to be, and we allow ourselves to soften and be more receptive to that, there's more harmony, not only in our system because our self-relationship deepens, but there's more harmony in the way that it shows up externally in our romantic relationships, even our interpersonal relationships with our children.
You know, it's interesting because in my religion, they actually 30 years ago, they created what's called the Proclamation to the Family. And so it talked about the husband is to go provide for the family, the wife is to stay home and care for the kids. And so when I married my husband, I mean, we grew up in that culture, right? That he would go to work, I would take care of the kids. And that's something I always dreamed of and hoped for. So when I had twins at the first time on bed rest, and so I was the full-time breadwinner, go on bed rest for 4 months. So you're going to have to step up, dude, because I'm on long-term disability, but that's 60% of our pay. So I need you to also step up. And long story short, I ended up always being the breadwinner because he didn't know what to do. And his excuse was, well, Sharice, you make so much. How can I ever replace that? Right. And to this day, he's like, well, Sharice, you take pleasure in making the money. And it's like, really, is that true? Because I showed you how I wanted, because when I married my second husband, I quit my job and we went on food stamps for a very short time, but we still did because I was making more than him. But he's like, sure, you know, we had a child together and ended up two, that he's like, you know what? I want you to be home with your kids. And at the time, my older kids were special needs. I needed to be home. So we struggled for a long time, and then add a family member and a best friend taking hundreds of thousands of dollars. So like it was a tough time. But at the end of the day, my husband and I currently were on the same page. And there are no excuses. And it's like, okay, this is what we want. How are we going to get to it? And let's fight for it. Whereas this one's like, figure it out because I don't want to do anything about it. And so I think that you have to have both people working together and wanting to make it work. And if you have that, no matter how much horridness, because if I told you everything, it'd be like, oh my gosh, Sharice, how'd you do it? And it's been tough, like, but you have two people that are trying to make it work and working together. That is good. If you don't, it's tough. And
Truly.
so, and that's where, like you talked about your health issues. Like a year ago, I walked into the doctor and I said, what is wrong with me? I cannot lose weight. I've never been this heavy. Like I feel horrible and da 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 da. And he, like, I'm bawling. And he looks at me, he goes, Sharice, do you know how many women, this is the number one thing I see patients for right now? I can't tell you how many women, here's a drug, right? And I'm like, I don't want to take drugs. There's got to be another way. And so when you talk about women going into the system and that they overeat or they do this or they do that, I was totally self-medicating with food. And one day I woke up and went, wait a sec, you're not going to control my thoughts anymore and my feelings. Like I got to address these things. And so I'm still not where I want to be, but I'm healthier, right? And so I think for women, we try to take on the world. We try to do all these things. And if you're married, or if you have someone, or you have someone you can trust, be vulnerable. And I think
Mm.
you talk about there's a tension between being vulnerable and strength. So what can you speak to that?
Yeah. Women should always speak from their heart. When we speak from the truth of our desires and the truth of our heart, including our pain,
Right.
this is what inspires a man or life even to show up for us.
Mm-hmm.
Often we like try to mask our pain or try to be strong or don't want to like give our pain or our sadness to someone else. And that's true. We're not trying to like offload our experience to have someone else hold it. But
Mm-hmm.
if we don't show people the truth of our heart, they don't know how to support us.
That's true.
Vulnerability for me is actually just the depth of relationship you have with yourself and what truth is available to you. Because when you start getting really or like honest with yourself and this deeper relationship with self, I can't not give truth. I can't. Like I can't not give vulnerability. I cry in front of most people because my heart is here. I live from my heart space. And there's actually no shame in crying. And I
Right.
don't try and hide it. I don't try and like get them to save me from it. I'm just expressing the truth of what I feel. Life feels really hard and overwhelming in this moment. I have awareness that it might pass tomorrow, but in this moment, I feel so consumed by my hope, my helplessness, or this feeling of feeling lost.
Mm-hmm.
Expressing from that place, and the world will start to respond, not just our partners.
Mm-hmm.
Our gift to our men is softening into our heart and opening our hearts so they can be our hero. If we actually aren't allowing ourselves to be vulnerable, we're actually doing them a disservice.
Mm-hmm.
Because if we can hold our emotional needs, our financial needs, and our pleasure needs, what what job do they have?
It's true.
What what are we giving them to do? They're aware of it. They know it. Like, why do you need me? So why am I going to bother showing up? Because you don't need me.
Yeah.
And so when we start to motivate our husbands, partners, sons, even from this place of like, I'm really struggling right now because I feel like the world feels like a lot. I'm stressed about how we're going to pay our mortgage if I want to take time off. I'm stressed about the fact that I'm putting on weight and I don't know why. I'm stressed about everything that I see on the news, whatever it might be, whatever the truth of your heart might be. And give them that not as like a burden, but as a witnessing in like, I really need you to help me come up with a solution here because we're not meant to be logic driven. Men are. Men want to problem solve for us. Now, we might think that we're smarter than them. Sometimes we are. And when you learn to inspire their own critical thinking rather than mothering them and just giving them all of the answers, they will step into the space of your hero. But we're so afraid that, well, if they see the truth of my heart or the pain that I'm in, that they'll leave me. Or all of what I feel is so consuming for me, there's no way he could possibly hold this. And I'm going to be the martyr here and I'm going to lock all of this in and not actually share any of my pain or any of my concern because I'm stronger than him. I'm stronger than everyone, actually. In fact, what my childhood has taught me is that I'm the strongest out of everyone because my mum couldn't hold her emotion or my dad got angry at my emotion or whatever that imprint is. And so we start to internalize it and we think that we're better off being the strong one and holding it all in. We start to show our men our hearts. Honestly, it inspires them to figure out a way. And we're often trying to stop them from their process. Like, oh no, what if they feel the pressure too much? Or what if they cry? Or what if they crack? My ex-husband is the most successful that he has ever been. He has his own business. He works for himself. Because the heartbreak of me leaving him was the motivation he needed to be the man that I knew that he could be. I just didn't have the capacity to motivate him to be that version of himself because I didn't have the tools back then. But
Yeah.
he's the most successful and most happy he's ever been.
Mm-hmm.
And if I had have tried to like stay in the marriage longer and keep, I don't know, like swallowing that pain for the both of us, he wouldn't have stepped into the his evolution either. We're
Mhm.
doing everyone a disservice by not being truthful to what we feel.
I think yes. And my grandma, she actually said once, she's like, Sharice, if you would just quit your job, he would step up. And I actually said to him, Grandma, if I quit my job, we would be homeless. And the truth is in the pudding. So, I mean, I want to believe that, but he lives at home unemployed with his parents, right? So how do you, I mean, because I want the listeners to know, because I 100% support you and I believe that, but sometimes there's some mental illnesses going on with other people. So what's your advice with those types of
Yeah.
situations?
I want to say part of the reason I do this work is so women stop making bad decisions.
Okay. Yeah.
Because rather than coming to me when you're 50, come to me when you're 30 and actually set yourself up to make good decisions in relationships.
Yes.
We are so conditioned to self-sabotage and to not choose ourselves that we do make bad choices with men. And I was very fortunate that the man that I chose, although he didn't fulfill my needs, was still a good man at his core,
Mhm.
because that's not always true.
Okay.
So my first, I guess, mission in my devotion to the work that I do is I want us to stop self-sacrificing. Like, if I can help mothers, I can help their children.
Yeah.
If I can help women in their 30s, then I save one divorce from happening because I actually choose a partner that's more aligned rather than waiting till they're 50 to realize, well, who am I and what do I want? Or
Mhm.
like the kids are grown up, so now I get to choose myself.
Which have you seen the statistics? Like one of the number one statistic, like divorced people are the baby boomers. And people are like, what? Like they've been married for 30 years. Why? My theories would be because of that. They didn't choose the person they should have to begin with. And finally, they're like, okay, the kids are out. Now I can live my life and I don't want it with you, you know?
1000%, 1000%.
Yeah.
I also want to say, like, not every man decides to do the work.
Hmm.
Uh, and that will only change when women set higher standards.
Right.
Because why would you change if there's so many women willing to accept you as you are and not asking more of you because they're not asking more of themselves?
It's true.
And so there's like this systemic, like insidious projection of pain. We're literally just cutting each other with the knives handed to us by other people, and we keep perpetuating that, like generational, whatever you want to call it. It's like we've all just decided that this is the status quo, so like we'll just accept it and we'll go along with it. If you, it becomes more difficult when you have a child.
Hmm.
My relationship with my ex-husband changed, and actually he changed the more I healed myself. And it sounds so counterintuitive, so counterintuitive. And some people just won't change, and we have to accept that. But my ex-husband provides more for me now as his ex-wife than I ever allowed him to provide for me as his wife. Like I could call him now and be like, "Can I borrow 20 grand?" He'd be like, "Okay."
So I couldn't do that with mine. However, I mean, he and I had a great conversation the other night about an hour-long conversation about all four of our kids. And I mean, it was hard having the conversation because the stuff that I have concerns about, they got from him. But he received it, and I wasn't trying to be attacking. I didn't talk to him like it's your fault because I don't think it is. Like they're all old enough, they have their own choices. And so that to me, that's not an out for them. But like he and I get along really, really well, and I'm glad I have that relationship with him. And I think for him, I think it goes back to like Maslow's hierarchy of needs where he doesn't have the confidence in himself. And so because of that, he stops himself. And so, I mean, I've always said he's one of the most creative and smartest people I know. It's just he has to believe it in himself. And until he does, you know.
And he has a choice. Like I will never condone, I want to say like victimhood or
Right.
like,
Right.
I was raised by drug addicts. I could have very well been not even raised. I raised myself in a house full of drug addicts. Um, I very well could have played into that statistic.
Good. Hmm.
Um, Mental health is a real thing, and in the world, in the lens in which I view the world, We can overcome everything if we want it bad enough. It just depends on how bad we want it. Everything is a choice point. What is the choice that I'm making here?
Mhm.
Um, yeah, I want to say, I believe my mum's a drug addict actually because of her mental health issues.
Yeah. And usually,
Uh, yeah, truly,
mhm.
it's like self-medicated bipolar is I would hazard a guess something, or even schizophrenia. There's something at play there.
Mhm.
Um, I could perpetuate that and one like, wow, maybe this is genetic and maybe one day I'm going to wake up and lose my mind. Or I could continue to make healthy choices. So I'm in such like deep relationship with myself and my mind and my emotions and my regulation that I'm not like waiting for someone else to dictate my health. I'm not waiting for my genetics to dictate my health. I'm not waiting for someone else to tell me, like, give me the permission to live my life in the way that I want. If I love myself deeply and I make choices from this place of self-love, I lost the beginning of my weight loss journey. I took drugs because I too walked into I actually was contemplating bariatric surgery. I was like, I'm done. I'm like 110 kilos. I can't stop eating. I don't know what this is. Like, just give me the surgery because I wanted a quick fix. He gave me a drug. I took it for I want to say only 8 weeks and I started to lose weight, but then I started to have the side effects of the drug.
Mhm.
And I was doing enough internal work at the time that I realized that if I started to like speak to myself like I loved myself and make decisions like I love myself. So I started to say, if I loved myself, I would move my body like this. If I loved myself, I would nourish my body like this.
Yeah.
And eventually it became such second nature that I eat intuitively, I move intuitively, and I'm the healthiest that I've ever been that
Mhm.
like we program ourselves to believe what we tell ourselves. And when we start to understand that it's not so much about what we say out loud, it's about what we say internally. And when we can so I talk about building a relationship with the mean girl and loving the ugly parts of ourselves.
Yeah.
When you can love your ugly and you're crazy and you're chaotic and you're like unlovable,
Mhm.
it's a whole new level of self-love. It's like impenetrable self-love because you're in such deep relationship with the parts of you that you think the world is going to reject that, yeah, like everything becomes a reflection of that depth of self-love.
And that when you can get to that level, and I truly believe everyone can if they want to. I used to live in a neighborhood. I called the women the mean girls. I actually referred to them in my book in like the first 8 versions of the book before and then I'm like, you know what? If any of them were to read that, I would feel really bad because they're good women. They just, made some bad choices a few times that were very hurtful. And so I took it out.
We're not taught how to love ourselves and
Mhm.
we're not taught how to relate.
Yeah. Yep.
You can do one thing in life or business. It is come into such a deep, loving, unconditional loving relationship with yourself. Now, unconditional doesn't mean that you excuse your behaviors. That is not love. That is not love because love at its core doesn't hurt other people. And if you have behaviors, it is not love.
Right.
But if you can come into such deep relationship and you can learn how to relate with yourself, which means you can learn how to relate deeper with other people, your whole life changes in big ways.
And establish because you love yourself, you can establish boundaries and say, I don't have to put up with that. And so although I'm heavier than I've ever been in my life, I'm happier than I've ever been because it's like, you know what? you know, I am a good person and I never did anything to you. And so you're feeling guilty about what happened. It's a long story. And so because of that, you're projecting it on me. So I'm not going to own that. And I'm sorry that you feel like that. And I'm sorry that you might have bad feelings towards me. But I even went to one person and I said, look, I love you. You're one of the reasons we're moving, but I'm not going to give you that power and control. I'm just saying that we want to be in a healthier area. And so I think that the boundaries, once you start to love yourself, you start to realize, like I used to desire to have a relationship with somebody that I love dearly. It was very close to me growing up. And no matter what I do or did, like $200,000 maybe, and trying, like, I would drop everything to go on these vacations because they're like, hey, we're going to be here, let's do this. So I would drop all this stuff to try to create a relationship, and I'd be walked over. It's like, well, we're going this weekend. I literally canceled. I had an employee appreciation event. I literally moved it to this weekend from another weekend so that I could go on this trip and meet this person and my whole family and their whole family. And then they called me like on a Thursday and said, oh, just kidding. We actually are going to be this weekend. And it was the weekend that I'd moved the whole thing to. And I'm like, well, I'm just not going to go to the event now because I have to be at this person. And it was a horrible situation, a horrible. And so it's like, how much time, money, energy do I have to try to get this person's approval and affection and attention? And finally, I'm like, you know what? I no, it doesn't matter what I do. It's you who has the problem. It's you who is unhealthy. It's you who are not happy with yourself. Now, I would never say this to him because it wouldn't make a difference. But what I finally realized with myself was there's nothing that I can do. And I think that was even with my ex-husband. There's nothing I can do to help him love me. And so I just have to accept, do I accept him for who he is? And am I okay with the relationship? Or do I need to say, I love you, I'm here if you ever need anything, but I cannot be with you anymore? And that's where when you finally start to love yourself, those are the boundaries that you can start to have and be okay with it, you know?
Yeah, I want to say that tells me more about you and your self-love than it does about him.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
And this, the ways we manipulate and contort ourselves to fit into a box of who we think we need to be for someone to
Right.
love us.
Yeah.
And
Mm-hmm.
it's the same thing that we actually do in relationship. It's why so many relationships fail after 3 to 6 months, because we pretend to be someone else for the first 6 months in the honeymoon phase, and then all of our comes out, and it's like we're dating a new different person.
Oh, the
Like,
facade.
show them crazy up front. I promise you, your life will be easier.
Mhm.
Um, so yeah, it everything is a reflection on, like, what boundaries don't we have with ourselves? What lack of self-worth don't we have with ourselves? What is this relationship reflecting back about me? Because even if there was no through roads, just allowing yourself to be treated like that is a reflection of where you need stronger boundaries and self-worth and self-love. Because love isn't painful.
No.
Love isn't manipulative. Love isn't, I will love you if you do this. It's just, I will love you.
Yep.
Like, I have friends that I don't see for 6 months, and we have stronger relationships than people I see every day.
Yeah.
But it's this essence of, like, I want to say, like, maturing in our capacity to relate and to show up as love, and the depth of love we have with ourselves. And we stop trying to please people or seek approval. You learn to stand firm in, like, this is who I am. I know I'm not perfect. I do the work to learn more about myself and improve the ways I relate and I love. And from this place of, like, both knowing who you are with the flexibility to know there's room for improvement, we start to attract people that value us in the depth and truth of who we are.
And I think, me being on this podcast and interviewing so many people all over the world, like in Australia, I've realized, and even when I started to get into other coaching programs, and I've been in multiple, that I've realized, wait a second, like all these friends that I've had, they're absolutely not friends. They are suckers. And when I say that, suckers meaning energy, money, time, and they don't value either me, my profession, it doesn't matter what it is. And so it has been so enlightening and so fun to interview people like you and other women and meet people at these events that I realize my friends, it's time to find new ones, because, and it's been very, very freeing, I guess, liberating to realize that I don't have to be walked on anymore. And I don't mean that like pompous. I mean that as because I'm going to love myself and because this is where I want to go. You sometimes have to say goodbye to people. And it's not like I'll call some of the people and I love them dearly. Hey, how are you doing? And I'm not going to lose touch with them, but I'm not going to spend the time that I used to or try to arrange all these things to meet with them. Because if, quite frankly, if they wanted to, they could call me as well. And so, when it's one-sided all the time, kind of gets old.
Truly, truly.
So if you're on a park bench and you're sitting there and a 19-year-old person, maybe yourself, comes and sits down next to you, what advice would you give to that person?
Oh, learn to love yourself before you go seeking love in someone else.
Mhm.
Truly love yourself.
Yep.
Mm. Forgive fast and forgive often, but learn the lesson in it.
I love that.
Um, Including yourself,
Mhm.
and more importantly, yourself.
Yeah.
Shame and guilt are the shackles that keep us bound to past versions of us, and it's often not as bad as we make it out to be. And people care a whole lot less than we think they do.
So true. Yeah. And especially if somebody's wronged you, I promise this is something I always, that they do not get up every day and go, haha, I wronged them. And it makes me so happy. And they don't get up in the morning and say, I am going to wrong this person. Most people don't, and so if you take it from, I'm going to interpret that a totally different way or ask for clarification, then, it's much healthier and you don't
I
continue.
also say be curious, but have strong boundaries.
Mm-hmm.
Don't allow someone to continue to hurt you, but just be curious about their behavior.
Right, right. Yeah, nope, it's true. Okay, so you have depth and knowledge and lots of experience. And so if somebody wanted to, if one of our listeners said, I want to talk with her more, because obviously we've been talking for quite a long time. So if they want to find you and talk with you, how do they get a hold of you?
Yeah, so Lezly Kaye on Instagram is probably the fastest and easiest. I'm the most active. So Lezly, and I'm sure it will be in the show notes, but it's LezlyKaye. Hit me up on Instagram, send me a voice note if you want to chat. You can also lock in connection calls. I have a bunch of programs. I do like a membership and then I do one-on-one coaching. It really just depends on, yeah, like what level of access and what outcomes you're looking for. And I have some evergreen programs for people that are just starting out that sort of want to understand this stuff as they start to move through life, which are the most affordable and easiest way to have access to me.
Oh, that's fantastic. Well, Leslie, it has been a true joy. Thank you so much for being on. I appreciate it.
You're so very welcome. Thank you for having me.
And Unbreakable Moms, learning to love yourself. I think that that's a recurring theme throughout this podcast episode. And really, that's if you do not love the person that you are looking at in the mirror, then that is where you need to start before you do anything else. And so I encourage you to do that and tell yourself you love yourself today. Have a great day, and we will see you later.